Welcome to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast, a place to discuss pain, passion, and pursuits.
Let's get it. I want to feel alive.
Breathe.
Make some moves.
Protect the throne. This is Sexy Freedom Media Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast. It's your host, Helen Edwards and
January Liddell. Aloha.
There she is. Oh my gosh. So we're going to continue the topic that we actually were doing our lives on, but we're going to share about this subject on the podcast. So first of all, thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast. We'd love to hear, your thoughts after the episode. We love a review on iTunes and a 5-star or whatever star you wish to give us on Spotify. So thank you for listening, and please subscribe if you haven't to our YouTube channel, Sexy Freedom Media, or also share it with a friend if you found this to be something of value. All right, January, let's get into it. The subject today is why not you? Why not me?
Yeah, I love that topic because I remember when I first got into the financial industry. So here's a true story. When I first got into the financial industry, prior to that, I was a health coach. And my friend of, oh my goodness, 30 some years now, because we knew each other since we were 10. So we knew each other for a while. And he asked me, what do? I said, I'm a health coach. And he's like, well, I think you'd be great in the finance industry. I said, me? I'm like, I know nothing about the finance industry. And he said, no, but you'd be amazing at it. So I took him on that inspirational thought. I said, okay, let me get licensed. And I got licensed, and I finally got it. I passed. And even after I passed, I had an identity issue. And that identity issue was, why me? Why, like, how come these others have paved the way, and why not me? And I had such a strong stigma in terms of being a health coach versus a financial strategist. And I struggled with that for a while. And the why not me, question came about because I felt like I wasn't good in math. That was a story that I told myself. I'm not good in math. And I realized that I was speaking those words to myself, and I was creating this story. At some point during my reflection, I realized, wait, I can change that story. And I can say, I'm good at math, and math is my bestie. So I did. And ever since then, it's been this journey and it's a constant journey. Okay, because there are still ideologies in my mind about a financial advisor versus what I do as a financial professional. We're completely two different species, two different jobs, right? One is a generalist, and I am a specialist, and I'm focused on a certain thing. So I've definitely evolved since then.
Wow, I could relate to that because same thing happened to me with the whole I'm bad at math. I don't have a good memory. And yeah, sure, some of us out there have a really awful memory due to maybe brain damage or something else in their life. But for me, it didn't really click to me until I met you. So you definitely were a huge shining light in my life about that belief, which is I'm bad at math or I have a bad memory. You also introduced me to Mind Valley with is it Quick?
Jim Quick.
And I started taking that lesson, and I learned how I'd been programming my mind for so long on the idea of I'm bad at math. So much so that I became bad at math. And I also allowed everybody else to validate that belief that I'm bad at math. And in fact, they still believe that I'm bad at math. And I'm out to prove that I'm not bad at math. In fact, when I was in like fourth grade, I remember, do you remember that? I don't know if they did this at your school, but they put the times table quiz on your desk, and then everybody would come in and you'd have to flip it over, and everybody was in a race to, did you guys do that too?
We did that too. It freaked the hell out of me.
I was a star at that. I slayed that math quiz every single time. I prided, I've always been very competitive. So when we got that quiz, I was like on it. And I had that memory come back to me when I was taking Jim Quick's Mind Valley course. And I was like, where did that belief come from that I'm bad at math? Maybe I failed one time or a few times, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm bad at math. And it became a belief. It became what was real. I was actually becoming bad at math. And then everybody else around me started validating that same belief that I talked about. It's interesting because we're in the same industry. We're both financial strategists or tax-free retirement specialists. And the why not me came to me when I first walked through the door into the financial industry. And I'm telling you, January, your light and your relation to the way I was feeling made me say to myself, if she can do it, why not me? And if she used to say she was bad at math and I say it, then why not me? You know?
Yes, I love that because I'm going to tell you, in this space, in the financial industry space, women in the finance industry make such a small portion. So if I can inspire you and several other more women to do this, that we can change the dynamics of this whole game. Women obviously speak differently to clients than men. It's just a completely different, it's apples to oranges, right? So I would like, and I'm really happy to say that our team is comprised of all women. And that makes me super happy and super proud. So yes, if she can do it, why not me? And I look at people like Oprah, like Mother Teresa, like who's another infamous woman? So many infamous women out there. And to me, I always get the idea, well, if she can do it, then I can too. If these women can have, multi-million dollars, right? Then what's stopping me? The only one that's stopping me is me. And one thing that we talked about yesterday was our mindset. And we talk about that a lot on our podcast, is mindset and our belief system. And just like you changed your story about math, I changed my story about math. We're also changing our belief system that things don't have to be the way they are as we see it right now. They can always change. They can always evolve depending on what we choose to create it. So I love that. It's very empowering for me to know that we have the power. But I think it takes a shift. It takes a shift in our mindset to realize that we do have the power to do that. Would you agree?
Totally agree. In fact, right now, both of us, I was just telling Shrett this morning. I said, me and January are powerhouses because we're constantly feeding our minds, and it literally is the momentum that keeps us going, because
Want to hear more?
take what we're learning
Visit
and
us
we
at
apply it to our life.
SexyFreedomMedia.com.
And then we're like, okay, and what's next? What's the next awesome thing I'm going to start feeding my mind, right? So I'm reading a book right now called The Big Leap. And you're reading a book also, right?
I'm reading a couple books actually. So I'm reading Superfans. I just finished The Atomic Habits finally. So I finally finished that. Superfans is a great book by Pat Flynn. If you're an entrepreneur, that's a great book for you to read. And then I just started this Audible called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Oh, okay. I think you know about that. So Chris Voss is an amazing FBI negotiator. And if you are in business, he's such a great, and even just in relationship too, it's such a great book to read. So tell us more about The Big Leap.
Okay, first of all, I really want to read the book alongside you. Did you like just start it? Like, can you stop and wait for me? Because just like we did with the Power of Zero, we need like read a book together. Because I'm telling you, I'm like, wait, I've been wanting to read that book, Split the Difference. So, all right, I'll catch up.
Okay, look, I just got it just the other day. So it's right in the beginning. So yes, go get it. It's
Okay,
Audible.
how about this? Finish Superfans. Let me plan your book life out for you, okay?
But I like to read multiples. It's
I
like
know.
a feast.
I used to do that. I used to like have all these books I'd read at one time, and I finally came to the point in my life where focus has grabbed a hold of me. And I'm so excited about that because now I'm actually finishing books for the first
Yeah.
time in my life. I want to say it started last year. I'm like, whoa, when did that happen? It
Okay.
like happened overnight. It's so crazy.
Look, have you ever read that book? One more, the one thing. Okay, this book, so you're reminding me of that book. It's called The One Thing, and it basically talks about, and I'm being a hypocrite at this moment. It basically talks about if you have multiple things going on, then you're only putting a percentage of each in each of those little items. So you never get to finish one thing because you're putting yourself in all these different things. So in that book, it talks about the one thing, and it talks about doing so another book called Eat the Frog, or Eat the Biggest Ugliest Frog. That's it. So you got to
It's
eat the
called Eat That Frog.
eat that frog. Yes. So you got to eat the biggest, ugliest frog first. So yeah, you are right. I need to finish one book first and then move on to the next. This is probably why CEOs are known to read 4 to 5 books in a month because they're just so hungry to learn.
And they're focused on one thing, so they get it done
Yeah.
and then they move on to the next. Check, check, check.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to the question of what the big leap is about, it's amazing. I highly recommend it. Basically the summary from what I'm reading so far, because I'm only halfway through the book, it's about how we tend to self-sabotage ourselves when we get to that upper limit of achievement, and we have a reset button. All of us do have a reset button that puts us back down to where we feel safe and comfortable, and we actually do it mostly subconsciously. And he called the author calls it the upper limitations, because we all know the term limiting beliefs, right? But most of us have a tendency to move past limiting beliefs, right? If we're working through our life. But it's the big leap to into your zone of genius that is getting past the upper limitations, the upper ones, the one that's like way up here that pushes you back when you almost get to that point of getting over it.
Yes, I have a story actually. So 2013, 2012, I wanted to lose weight. I said, I want to lose a little bit of what weight or whatever. I got introduced to Purium. Purium is a superfoods all organic company and really loved it. And I invested in the business. I said, I'm going to do this. I got to diamond. Okay. So I got to a threshold, and for some reason, I felt like, yes, I wanted to move up the ranks, but I also felt like I didn't deserve it. I put that limitation on myself. I said, oh, I made it. And then just like what you were saying, the upward limitation, like I felt like I couldn't get there. Like it was so crazy. I couldn't believe, but you're right. It's a self-sabotaging form. And that didn't happen just once, it happened again. So then I invested in this other company after Purium, and and all of these cases are all health coach related, right? Health and wellness industry. And I made it. I made it to a certain goal. I'm like, this is awesome. And then I stopped. I stopped. And I stopped probably because I felt like, oh, I can't go any further. This is it. But I realized something. I had an epiphany yesterday. I was talking to a pastor. This pastor and I met at a John Maxwell conference, and he's in no, not Connecticut, somewhere in the East Coast, South Carolina. And he said, we were talking about it, and what I said was, well, maybe it just wasn't for me. Maybe those two companies were just not meant for me, and that's why I stopped. Possibly, right? There's all these different like conclusions that could have happened. One, I know that I felt uncomfortable going even further up, even though I wanted to. I felt like I didn't put the effort that I normally would when I was getting to diamond, right? Or getting to this other threshold. And I think it was fear of being successful. And that was it. Fear of being successful.
Okay, what's interesting about that, I'm about to say something that's going to blow your mind because I heard it from the book this morning and it blew my mind. And the quote was, we all, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to take this light off because I have to read the exact quote. It was just so good. It says, what's the invisible crime that you're serving time for that was put in your life by someone else and keeping you stuck in fear and making you sabotage your natural zone of genius? Okay, wait, hold on. I'm going to say it again without all this stuttering. What's the invisible crime that you're serving time for that was put in your life by someone else and keeping you stuck in fear or making you sabotage your natural zone of genius? Right? Okay. So the reason before he said that, the author said that, it was basically because of the learned behavior that we learn as a child. And that's why we're subconsciously set in our thermostat for success at a certain point. And it's different for all of us. So it made me kind of question, like, what crime? It's an invisible crime, right? It's something that somebody else felt guilty and fearful of and became their belief and then got put in us as children. And then we grew up and now we're basically spending our whole lives trying to undo what was done.
Totally, I agree because there's so many different programming that we encountered as children. And so that's why one of the questions that I was asked yesterday was, why is 40 so fabulous? You know, why is 40 such a good year? And I feel around this age is when we're being more self-aware and reflecting more about everything that's happened back then. I highly encourage those who are 30, 20, if you can catch it at an earlier age, go for it. I hope that you find that time to really self-reflect and
Yes.
program. You know, don't wait until you're in your 40s. Do it earlier. But yes, you're right. It's definitely a lot of reprogramming and seeing that we are self-sabotaging. I think we need to actually acknowledge that we're self-sabotaging because I think a lot of the times we don't take account for that. We don't take ownership for us self-sabotaging ourselves, which is one thing we talked about yesterday. We talked about giving the, words of affirmations to ourselves.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Going back to the why not you? All right. And the why not you? And when your answers are, oh, because of this, because of that, because of this, that right there is the awareness you need to have when you basically stand in your own way, right? And okay, as an example, and this is what we were talking about yesterday, and it's such a simple thing. I wanted to make this post on Facebook yesterday morning, just kind of sharing some things I'm going to do in the community. And just, I wanted to put it out there just in case anybody else who doesn't know about these events happening in my small community will know about it. And then I immediately started doing it, started making the post on Facebook, and then I stopped myself. And everything came into my mind. Like, why do you need to do that? People can see what the events are. They can find it themselves. Nobody's going to like it. Nobody's going to care about it. Why would you put yourself out there? All these things. And I immediately was like, delete, and then that's when the awareness kicked in. Like, whoa, this is a perfect example. Your initial intention to go on Facebook and make this post was pure. It was coming from a place of love. It was coming from a place of sharing. It was not coming from that distorted egotistical mind. The person who stepped in front came from fear, came from that ego place, came from that, whoa, let me protect you, which I realized there's two intentions here, and one of them came from the right place. And that awareness right there made me say, I'm going to push past this and I'm going to make that post. I'm going to make that post.
Yes.
And it's the
So
smallest thing though, right? So small, but these small things are small, but they have big effects. Going back to the compound effect, they have a big, were you going to say that?
yeah, this is where you and I are like aligned.
Oh my God, that's so crazy.
Because it is like compound interest. It's that 1% change. You just you just fulfilled that yesterday by going against the grain, because yourself, your younger self, your insecure self, because we all have it. We all have that insecure self. That your insecure self was telling you, protect yourself, protect yourself from rejection. How are others going to see you? And then there's this wall, and you're in your mind, in your enlightened mind, you were like, hold up, wait a minute. No, no, I'm moving past whatever these small whispers are like trickling in your ear, and you're saying, nope, I'm going to move past that. And that's it. That it's a matter of practice. And like you said, it's that 1% change, and that 1% creates a bigger effect. So there's the book Atomic Habits. It was talking about a bicycle team in France, and they were doing horribly. Like, they lost, I think, a lot of tournaments, and they decided to shift something. It was like a change in the seat or something, or a change in like eating habit, or like a change in the time they go to sleep. So something like that, right? Something so small, and you were like, what is this gonna do? But over time, when they kept on doing that small change, they actually won the Tour de France like multiple years consecutively because of all these small shifts. Anyway, that's the story of the compound interest. So good for you, Helen, for practicing.
I love the small shifts because it really is the small things that make the biggest effects down the line. And why not me? Why not me? I ask myself these questions because I'm an author, I'm an international author, we're podcasters and financial strategists. And those are my three big hats right now. Those are the three. I used to have like 10. And when I started going down and narrowing it down to focus on just where I can give the most of my attention to and what I'm passionate about, right? I broke it down to these three. And then I thought to myself, how do I expand these three? And that's where the why not you came in. Because I was like, why not you have a book that turns into a movie? Why not you have a podcast that generates millions of downloads and gets monetized? Why not you be this amazing financial strategist and tax-free retirement specialist that helps so many people, with their financial freedom? Why not you? And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. I'm stepping into this. I'm stepping into it because I believe it. I'm passionate about it. And all three of them give me the purpose to serve others, right? Serving others is just, it comes from a place of love. Well, not everybody, but for me, speaking for me, it comes from a place of love.
Yes, I agree. Same. I think so there's another book, and the book is called Communications with God. Undivided Communications with God. I can't remember it, but it's by Neil Don Welsh or something. Oh my gosh, it's been a long time since I read that book. But the premise of this book is that there are only two factors that determine our decisions, and it's either of love or of fear. Those are the only two things. So if we can catch ourselves, like Helen catches herself, and she caught herself and she's like, ooh, that was a place of fear. That was a place of ego and pride. And she's shifted and she said, well, I want to come from a place of love. And, and that's what she did. She acted towards that realm, is a love. And I love that we're reading all these books, because when we read all these books, then we gain knowledge that maybe some may not know. And we hope, those of you that are listening, that we bring value to you. That is our real intent when we do this podcast, is to bring value and hopefully some laughter as well. Because when Helen and I get together, we are two powerhouses that get together, and it's just a ball of energy, and I love it. And so the why not me, when I first started this podcast, I started with Chat with January, and I started it because, as most of you know, if you're entrepreneurs, it's important to get your name out there. And so I started Chat with January. Then I met Helen, and Helen asked me to be her co-host. Well, I actually auditioned and she chose me. Thank you. And now I'm a host for Sexy Freedom Media podcast. But in the beginning, I said, why not me? I had that insecurity because at first when I started chat with January, I'm like, what do I have to say? I have nothing to say. That was my limiting beliefs. Okay. That was I don't have a story. So, which is why I actually started inviting guests on my show, because I felt like other people's stories were much more important than mine. And wow, I don't think I've ever actually said that out loud. So now that we have this podcast, it makes me feel so empowered, and I'm stepping into January and who January is meant to be. And I am enjoying this. So I'm an example of why not me? Because Helen can do it, I can do it too.
I love that. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable in saying that out loud, because sometimes you just need to say things out loud and the answers are right there. The answers of whatever you're desiring or seeking in life are in there. They just need to come out. I was just telling Danita that we were having this conversation the other day, and I said the answer is not separate from the problem. It's you got to get it out, whatever it is that you're feeling stuck in. Just start talking about it, and you're going to be like, oh, there. If you come to that awareness, you're going to go, whoa, oh my gosh, this whole time that just needed to come out of my throat. It needed to come out from my gut, that wherever it was feeling stuck and yuck at. Yeah. So thank you, January.
This is a good release. I know that we talked about this earlier this week, and this is all good release because all of us are not immune to the why not me syndrome or the imposter syndrome, and we're not immune to that. It starts from when we're younger, and it'll go on, and for as long as we allow it to go on. Okay, so we have the ability to change that, and I encourage you to self-reflect. Another thing that not Pat Flynn, see, I'm reading all these books, James Clear talks about is the annual review and the integrity report. So annual review, I actually encourage you to do it monthly. And there are 3 questions to ask in that annual review. Let me see if I can grab those questions because these questions are really good to self-reflect and will help you with why not me? Okay, so number 1, what went well this month? Number 2, what didn't go so well this month? And number 3, what did I learn? Because we're constantly learning. Okay, so those are 3 questions for the monthly report. Now for the integrity report, the 3 questions are, what are the core values that drive my life and work? Number 1. Number 2, how am I living and working with integrity right now? And number 3, how can I set a higher standard in the future? Helen was a really great example of how am I living and working with integrity right now, because she operated from love, from that pureness of heart. So anyway, those are the three questions.
Wow. I love those questions, and I'm going to have you message me those questions because I am ready to answer them. Let's go. Oh, well, on that note, let's go ahead and wrap this up and just tell everybody where they can find you. And if you have any words of encouragement for everybody going into the weekend and week, let them know, January.
You can find me januaryliddell.com. You can also find me at retirement or workforever.4 ever.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, VIP Finance Builders. And my words of wisdom for this coming weekend is, you only have one life to live. So choose wisely and make your life full as if tomorrow is your last. Okay, Helen, where can we find you, and what is your words of wisdom for the weekend?
I love that. I love that. All right, you can find me on Hell of a Journey right here, right there. On Facebook, I have a public page, Helen Edwards, and on Sexy Freedom Media. Join our Facebook group for women, sexy, successful, and soul-fed. You can find all the link in the show notes. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And you can also get your copy of the book, Nothing Sexier Than Freedom, on Amazon and Audible. My words of encouragement for you are, if it's to be, it's up to me. Don't rely on everybody else. Make it happen for yourself. Get out of your own way. And why not you? Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. I hear it.
Want to hear more?
Visit us at SexyFreedomMedia.com.